Hello, I'm O Speaks, aka O Tatum Speaks. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, share. Miss Phoenix, how you doing? Uncle L, what's going on? Lester, how you doing, sir? There's a conversation that happened just over a week ago between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz that I want to go over. I trimmed it down and I sped it up a little bit because it was a pretty long conversation, but it was a fascinating conversation because something's happening right now in politics, and a lot of people on the right don't understand it. And I think I may be able to help them understand if they ever get around to this video why there is a new wedge happening, and that is over the support of Israel and wars in general. Um, what I what I would like to do is just react to this conversation because so many things come up in this conversation that had me like, huh? What? And interestingly enough, I believed some of these things in the past, and my positions have evolved. One of them being weapons of mass destruction. Everybody remembers, well, not everybody, but a lot of you will remember weapons of mass destruction were a thing in the past. And we went to war over this. And we're going to hear Cruz and Carlson talk about this, and I want to give my insight on this because there are people on the so-called conservative right who are genuinely confused as to why people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, they don't know who I am, but people like me are like, nah, I'm done. No more wars. A borderline isolationist, not full isolationist, but borderline isolationist. So this may be a conversation that you guys aren't used to hearing, but I think if you're on the right or leaning to the right or interested in why there's this big divide right now going on about these wars, I think this will be a good live stream for you. So again, please like, subscribe, and share. Let's get a banner going. Bam, boom, bing. All right. Support the channel. I dropped links for my Cash App. I dropped links for my X feed if you would like to see my my Rumble feed. If you are a content creator and don't have a Rumble, I think you're making a very, very, very big mistake because you can back up. It's just honestly, it's another way to back up all of your lives in case something happens to your channel without actually having to do any work. It literally uploads the exact same feed that we're doing right now is happening on Rumble this very second. So when this goes off, if YouTube says, I don't like you talking about the LGBT community, Rumble says, you're good. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to re-upload. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to find it. You don't have to save it. It's all there. It stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. I would highly recommend you guys get Rumble. Again, I already put the links in the chat. So without further ado, I want to go over this conversation because I think it was a fascinating, fascinating conversation. Let's pull it up, shall we? Dum, 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 dum.
A successful regime change that the United States supported that you're aware of in the last 100 years?
Sure. Defeating the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union collapsing, winning the Cold War. That was the most consequential step for U.S. national security interests of our lifetimes.
Okay.
And
so you would classify that as a regime change that we affected?
Absolutely.
We're making moral cases. We did for 7 years with the Soviets.
The only example he could think of was 1989, 90, 91. But here we are. We're still doing this. We're in Ukraine currently. We're helping Israel currently. We're saying it's of our national interest. I don't agree. I don't agree.
Our system works. Yours doesn't.
Yep.
And I think we made a credible case for that. And we beat them over 70 years economically.
And that was a huge part of it.
Right. I think everyone would agree that was the main part of it. We didn't beat them in Vietnam, North Korea.
The main part of it, but it was tied to a military buildup. So I think it was two things. It was one, the clarity. So Reagan came in and he described the Soviet Union as an evil empire.
Right.
And all of the intelligentsia in DC, all the Democrats, all the media, they're like, what a horrible thing to say. You can't say that. Reagan went to the United Kingdom and he said, Marxism, Leninism will end up on the ash heap of history. People were horrified.
I mean, is there anybody who was alive in 1989 who wouldn't trade that America for the one we live in now? There's not one person, I don't think.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, just the basic metrics, debt, suicide rate, life expectancy. I wonder why after that victory, America didn't thrive in the way that we thought that it would, that I thought.
And this is why I'm more aligned with Tucker Carlson. It's not that I agree with his politics. I agree with his questioning. Hey, should we have done that? Yes, we should have done it. We did this, this, and this. Okay, are we better off now? Are we better off now than we were in 1991? The metrics that he just gave, I would say no. Everything's more expensive. Gas is eightfold what it was. Cost of living is skyrocketed. Uh, Everyone is in debt. Like, what did we really gain by toppling the Soviet Union, other than being able to say we toppled the Soviet Union? We beat them supposedly to space. We have more tech. We bankrupted them. How many lives were impacted over that war? And I'm just asking these questions. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I remember it vaguely. I wasn't really paying attention. What's going on, John Thompson? But I think it's fair to ask these questions after a war. Hey, was it worth it? And then should we change our path moving forward, or should we just keep doing what we've been doing? And it seems like a lot of people on the right, there's a separation now, because most of MAGA is, hey, Trump said no new wars. But the neocons and a lot of conservatives, legit conservatives, are like, no, we have to do this. This is what we must do. This is what we've always done. Conserve. Conservatives don't like change. So when you throw a monkey wrench in there like a Donald Trump, they don't like it. They may warm up to it, which a lot of them have. But then we have these new ideas like no war. I don't want my money going to death and explosions and slaughter. For some reason, they're still trying to conserve that thought process. No, we have to go to war. Israel's under attack. We have to intervene. Really? Do we? And now it seems as just asking the question turns you into an anti-Semite. So I wanted to do this live again. I kind of touched on this last live, and I hope Taryn's in here so he can get a better understanding of why I was saying what I was saying. But I'm not for any of this stuff. I'm just not for it. And to hear people say, well, Iran has been messing with us for decades. Okay. And you're going to see why that doesn't matter in a second.
That it would. My family was involved in that. I mean, we were very focused on it in my house. Like,
Yeah.
we won. And I wonder two things. Why didn't the United States kind of declare victory and make some sort of arrangement with Russia that allowed like mutual prosperity rather than continuing a Cold War? And second, I wonder why the United States didn't get a lot better. Like, why don't we have better infrastructure? Why don't we have fewer homeless? Why do we have all these drugs? Like, if we won, why does our country look like this? I walked across from Union Station this morning, as you do, I'm sure, every day. I noticed people lying in the street, sleeping outside. It's like, what is that?
Look, there's no doubt there are really dangerous forces in our society. Some of it is politics and some of it is culture. And one of the mistakes people make in politics is thinking everything is politics. So the political answer, which I happen to believe, is we went much further down the road of liberalism. You look at Bill Clinton, who inherited the peace dividend of the Cold War being over and moved us more to the left, and then Obama accelerated it a lot. So there are lots of
I agree.
bad.
So I don't mind blaming liberalism. I do it all the time. What I do mind is ignoring George Bush. How do you ignore George Bush Jr.? And I actually liked him. I liked Bush, the younger. He seemed like a really nice guy. The problem is he got us into several wars. He took away tons of our freedoms after 9/11. And he just glossed over that. He went straight, he went straight from Clinton, ignored Bush, and went straight to Obama and said these policies they just really, really hurt us. What about the ones that allow the government to look at all of our information at all times without us knowing? We don't even have to know we have a warrant out on us. They can spy on everything that we have. Like the freedom, it's weird how many freedoms we lost if you just go to an airport. If you flew before the attack on 9/11 and you flew the next day, you would realize how many freedoms we lost like that. Instant. I don't know how they got all those machines in so fast, but it was within the week. All of a sudden, you can't bring in shampoo, which I don't really need shampoo, but it's just an example. Any kind of liquids, you lost so much. You can't even dress certain ways because you have to take off your shoes. It's just a fascinating thing. Is there any metal in there? I don't know. People were flying for decades before 9/11. Afterward, it's like a fortress. And I get it. It would be a little bit easier to handle if every airport was the same. I don't know how much you guys travel. I've been everywhere in this country and places outside the country. It is insane how every airport and even different terminals within the same airports have different rules. Like, huh? Well, they said I didn't have to pull my laptop out over there. Why do I have to pull it out over here? Some places you can take off your shoes. I went through the same terminal at Hobby Airport. I went to the same terminal 2 different times, the exact same, whatever you call it, security checkpoint. And one time I didn't have to take off my shoes. The other time I had to take off my shoes. Same machine, same everything. So the rules seem very arbitrary. We've lost tons of freedoms, and that was not under Obama. That was not under Clinton. So when he just did that, he just skipped completely over 4 years. Wait, he served 2 terms. He just skipped over 2 terms of losing freedoms. And you got to hold everyone accountable. You can't just say, oh, it's liberals and all their policies. They didn't do that. They love them. I'm sure they love them, but they didn't do that. You can't just say one side. And I try to be fair, even though I have my leanings. I'm very upfront about that.
Economic policies, but I also think they're cultural things. The loss of faith,
I agree with all of
family.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree 100%. I bet there's not one word that I would disagree with. All I'm saying is, like, I think it's important to step back and ask.
But I actually think Russia has very little to do with it. So,
well, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make, which is, like, we're all sort of focused on beating our adversaries abroad, but what is victory worth if our own country becomes what it is now? And maybe we're spending a little too much time focused abroad and not enough time focused on the people sleeping outside Union Station.
So look, I absolutely think we need to focus at home emphatically, and we need to focus on prosperity. We need to focus on reducing the debt, reducing spending, empowering people, low taxes, small businesses, American free enterprise. It's the most powerful force for fighting poverty the world has ever seen. I'm 1,000% there. I also recognize it is a dangerous world, and part of the responsibility of leaders, part of President Trump's responsibility, is to keep America safe. Let's go back to where we started.
But can I ask, you've been in the district a long time in D.C., so have I. And the city's way more dangerous, and Congress runs this city.
No, it's a complete crap hole.
So I'm saying, like, no Iranian's ever going to kill me. I could get carjacked here. And I just don't understand how the Congress could run this city and focus on the dangers of Iran when the city is like garbage. It's garbage.
But Congress doesn't run the city. We could.
Congress does run the city. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution, but they've given.
Congress absolutely runs the city. So it's ironic because DC is always at the top of the list in every crime that there is in this country, and Congress runs that city. They can overrule any new law that their mayor comes up with. So they have a mayor and a city council, but Congress can overrule anything that they do. Because it is in the Constitution that is their city, because it technically wasn't at first. They have full authority over Washington, D.C. I think it's one of the, if not the most expensive place to live, and one of the highest crime places to live. That's the disparity between the haves and have-nots in D.C. They have full oversight over all the budget in that city, and they complain about it. They absolutely run that city. Did you know that?
Home rule, so it's a Democrat mayor.
Take it back. You control the Congress.
I'd vote for it, but it is a question of balance.
Even that, you don't have to vote for it. Congress runs the city. What is there to vote for? He just said, oh, they have home rule. That doesn't mean they rule. You still have full oversight over that city. You don't have to allow it to be what it is. My daughter lived there while she was in law school at Howard. It's a beautiful city, but there are parts of that city that are so dangerous. I'm like, man, this is like Chicago. And I wonder how that's possible when you have the most powerful people in the world in that city, and it's still up there with crime. It doesn't make sense to me, especially because this guy right there on your screen is one of the people who runs it. And all they do is complain about it.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, why? How can people ignore? It's like if my own kids are drug addicts, but I'm focused on my neighbor's kids, it's like I'm neglecting my own kids. And there's a sense in which the Congress is neglecting the country that elected them in favor of this relentless focus on other people's problems.
And this is why Trump was elected. America first. And that's why in my title I put, I think I put America first. Oh no, in my thumbnail I think I put, what is America first? What do each of these guys consider America first? And we're about to find that out, which is why I found this interview so fascinating. It's weird. I don't understand how two people can look at two words, America first, and have a completely different interpretation of what that means.
The way it feels as an American.
Look, there are lots of problems in America that we need to fix. Why is DC a pit? Because you have a mayor and a Democrat city council that won't let police officers arrest bad guys. And in every
You have full power over that mayor and city council. You have full power over them. But it's easier to point the finger. Do something about it. That's your city.
city you see across the country, whether it's New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's LA, whether it's San Francisco, if you have Democrats, we see the LA riots where they won't let people be arrested. All right.
Then why not work in regime change here?
And I'm not going to stop at this much. It's just this topic is so interesting to me because he's correct about most Democrat cities. But that has nothing to do with DC because you actually can step in and do anything you want there. Mr. Cruz, you can do anything you want there. I know you represent Texas, great state of Texas, but you're in DC as well, and you don't do anything. You don't do anything about the very problems you were just talking about.
Why not use the bully pulpit?
I do. What do you think I do every day? And
I never see a Republican senator stand up and say, I just walked to work this morning over people dying of drug ODs. We're going to shut this place down unless they fix it. They're mad about Putin. Like, what did Putin do to Washington? Nothing.
Look, in terms of regime change, let's talk this week. The riots in LA, I've made very clear that the cause of those riots are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And when you elect communists who hate America, who stop law enforcement from arresting criminals, you get what you get on the streets.
Amen, I agree.
My in-laws are Californians, and they're wonderful people. Heidi grew up on the Central Coast of California. And I remember I was texting with my mother-in-law, and I think I sent her a video of criminals going to a store and just looting in California. And her response, she said something like, well, this is really terrible. Like, I wish we could, it's a shame we can't do anything about this. So yes, you can. Go in and arrest them. Throw their butts in jail. Put them in handcuffs.
100%.
And it stops.
Exactly.
And so we know how to fix these things. And D.C. is, I think D.C. voted, if I remember right, 92% Democrat. Democrat policies don't work, and they destroy every community that they are in charge of.
Then why don't Republicans assert their constitutional authority over the city? Don't they control the Congress?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. I'd be all for it.
Who's against it?
There he goes again. I'd be all for it. You're in power right now. What do you mean I would be all for it? As if it were hypothetical. You can do it. You can literally go on the floor tomorrow and do something about it. But it's easier to do this and blame the mayor and the city council.
Susan Collins is really vocally against it. So on questions of home rule, so for example, let's take an issue you and I care a lot about, the COVID lockdowns. I had a couple of years ago in the middle of them. DC was proposing, the DC school district was proposing throwing out of school any child that was not vaccinated. And at the time, if I remember correctly, it was something like 40% of the African-American students in DC were not vaccinated. So we're talking about literally throwing out 40% of the kids at public school. And so I had a vote on the Senate floor to say, look, they can't throw kids out of school for this. And we ended up having a big argument. And part of the argument was home rule, where there was, and Susan was the most vocal Republican that's like, no, we have to let DC run. And I'm like, why? Constitution gives us the power to do it. And it ended up, by the way, every single Democrat, all of them, voted in favor of the DC public schools being able to throw out 40% of the black kids from school. And I said, look, you throw a kid out of school, you got a 14, 15-year-old boy, you throw him out of school, you know what's going to happen next. He's going to join a gang, he's going to engage in crimes, he's going to engage in drugs. He could be dead within 5 years if that kid doesn't get an education. And the Democrats were more than happy to say, we don't care. Right now, our religion is get the vaccine or to hell with you.
But can you see, I mean, once again, I couldn't agree with you more, but can you feel the frustration of people, including your voters, every American, at the emphasis on foreign countries and the threat we supposedly face, a lot of which is fake, obviously, over the kind of slowly unfolding tragedy of what's happening to our country? The dollars spent, the aid packages to Ukraine to pay the retirement of civil servants in a country that we have nothing to do with, the endless support for Israel, very expensive, when people are literally buying groceries on credit in the United States. Can you feel like it's nothing against Ukraine or Israel or any other country?
All right, let's stop. You said the support for Israel, very expensive. How much support do we give to Israel?
Well, you tell me, you vote for it.
Yeah, it's about $3 billion a year is the military assistance.
Is that the only assistance?
Yeah, we just have military assistance. Israel does not have additional assistance. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and it's $3 billion a year.
So what is it costing to support the bombing campaign to protect Israel right now from Iran?
So I don't know right now, but I'll tell you this. Let's go back to the touchstone on foreign policy, American interest. Our support, our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security interest, and it benefits us enormously.
Well, before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it, I think we need to know what it costs. So what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No, that's the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships. to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know. And there's some lag when the administration, under the Constitution, the commander-in-chief has control of the armed forces. And so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time. But I don't know the last week. I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum of understanding. And that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel. Israel shares the Mossad is one of the best intelligence sources on the planet.
Now, I understand what he's saying from a military perspective, but what does that do for a homeless veteran? Do you think they could use that $3 billion, even take one of them, $1 billion, and help veterans in this country? What Tucker's trying to get this man to understand is, what about here? What about our home? You're so worried about these other conflicts, and I get it. You think that they're of national security, they're under national security threat. I get that, but how do you convey that to a homeless person in this country right now? And I don't think you can tell them. I don't think they care, because they don't even have a home. I think what Tucker said is, you got kids. You need to take care of your kids first before you start worrying about your neighbor's house and what they're doing with their kids. It's weird to me, but that's what we're doing, and we keep doing it, and we've been doing this for decades.
Enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Good.
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
That's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
Exactly. I don't even know why he brought up conservative versus socialism, whatever he's talking about. They spy on us. Do you guys spy on your neighbors? Would you allow your neighbors to spy on you, fly drones over your house, ask your kids questions? He's like, it's not a big deal. They spy on us. We spy on them too. So are they really friends? He downplays it like it's not a big deal. Do they share all of their intelligence? No, but we don't share all of ours with them either. They don't pay us. We pay them. See how there's a difference? This mindset to me is so foreign. I don't understand it. What's crazy and scary is I used to think like this back right before the Iraq war. I used to think like this, like, well, we got to do what we got to do. We're under threat. They hate us. Why is it, or is it a crime for them to hate us? No, they can hate us. I don't understand this mindset anymore, and it's wild to hear it out loud, because I see myself talking like this in the early 2000s. Like, can't believe I thought this way. But we have the privilege of looking back at things and having hindsight, because it's 2020.
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that. And by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know, hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion...
I said guiding, the overwhelming, I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel, because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clear...
But I just want to stop on the spying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay, and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. Is that...
How about if we catch you spying on us, we pull funding? So it's easy to say, yeah, well, they're going to do it. You know, they do what they do. They spy on us. It's okay. They spy. We spy on them. That's okay. But again, they don't fund us for anything. We fund them. So if we catch you, there's higher stakes. Not just this nonchalant, that's okay. They spy on us. They're spying on American citizens. No big deal. Your job is to protect me. You're there to represent me. And you're just nonchalantly saying, they spy on us. It's not a big deal. So what? Make the stakes high. We give $3 billion. Okay. We cut $1 billion if we catch you spying on us. I guarantee either they get more careful or they stop altogether. Because what's the benefit? Why are they doing that to us anyway? How about you work with our government to find whatever you're looking for here? Because it's a crime. It's literally a crime.
It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Sure, I would say don't spy on us. They're going to anyway. And by the way, the Brits are, the Canadians are. Like, I don't think...
Well, I'm not for that at all. I think it's disgusting. But we don't actually pay their... we're not their most meaningful sponsor. We're not sort of paying for the operations of the British government.
I got to say, and this is... It's weird. We're talking about isolation. It's the obsession with Israel. Why is Israel...
Well, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot of people are. And like the question, Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess... no.
We don't pay for all those other countries. And if we do, it's the exact same approach. This is what he's doing is like, well, I got caught speeding, but everybody's speeding. What's the big deal? No. They're still violating our country and our Constitution because if you're spying on America, you're spying on American citizens. This is a democratic republic. You can't just do that. And he's shrugging it off. He's a lawmaker. I really used to like this guy, and he's still a smart guy. But listening to his attitude towards things that, in my opinion, are huge, everybody spies on us. So what are you going to do about it? I would love to hear what you're going to do about it. I don't want to hear, well, they're all doing it. It's a free-for-all. Just steal everything. Do you even know what they're spying, what they're looking for? He doesn't seem to care at all. He's just shrugging it off like it's not a big deal.
No, I'm hardly the one who... I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel...
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship
and relationship. Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that.
He came in, ran for Senate with the intentions of being the leading advocate or whatever he said for Israel, not America. Hold on, let me go back and make sure I get that right. Not America, for Israel. What?
Political action.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
The leading defender of Israel. That's what he ran on. That's what he says. Or at least that was his motivation for becoming an American citizen. Or representative, sorry, senator. That was on him. That's his thought. You know what? I need to run for Senate. I want to be the leading defender for Israel. What are we supposed to pledge our allegiance to? So again, to me, watching this back, I was like, I may have to go live. And then I watched it over several days. And finally, by the time I was done, I was like, I have to go live over this. This dude's pledging allegiance to Israel. He literally said that was his intention for running for Senate, was to be the leading defender of another country. Miss Akimi, young lady, how you doing? That is insanity to me. I don't. This is insane. One more time.
American-Israeli friendship
and relationship. Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked.
This guy he ran for United States Senate so that he could be the #1 defender of Israel. That's insane. And he said it out loud like it's no big deal because a lot of people speak like this and think like this. You pledge allegiance to our country.
Every day to do that.
He works every day to do that.
A lot of times, AIPAC, I wish, were much more effective. Like, there are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC...
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No,
this.
not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay. When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC...
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets...
No,
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government. And I don't... It's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay. So it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay. But it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all.
And it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC because AIPAC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if...
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But AIPAC are Americans, but not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
and
why
aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not. Okay.
One of Hunter Biden's would-be cases was that he was lobbying on behalf of Ukraine, and he was lobbying on behalf of China, and he didn't register. It's against the law. So all he's asking is why people who run AIPAC don't have to register. That's all he's asking. He keeps saying that they're not lobbying. Their sole purpose is to push the agenda of Israeli and American unity, whatever that means. That's what they do.
Not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is that there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions. And you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
and being feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
So, Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate in 2012. I came in Obama's second term. And I actually saw AIPAC be badly wounded in a way they never came back from. And the second term is when Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. And the Iran...
He's really good at telling stories that you can be sympathetic or agree to, and it doesn't have anything to do with the question that was asked. He's really good at it, though. He's very, very skilled because he's trying to force common ground. Well, would you believe that this was bad? Yes, the Iran deal was bad. Okay, well, that's what I was for. We're on the same page here. No, I still want to know about AIPAC.
The nuclear deal, I think, was catastrophic, and AIPAC went all in lobbying against it.
Yeah,
and they failed. And I was the leading opponent of the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, I know. They definitely failed, yes.
They failed, and what happened, the Obama White House told every Democrat, when I got here, there used to be real bipartisan support for Israel. That has largely disappeared. And it's the Obama nuclear deal that caused it, because the Obama White House told every Democrat, pick. You either stand with Israel, or you're a Democrat and you stand with the Obama White House. And almost every single Democrat member of Congress said, I'm a Democrat first, to hell with Israel. And then I watched as AIPAC, every one of those Democrats got reelected, and AIPAC did nothing about it. And it dramatically reduced AIPAC's influence.
I agree. I watched it happen.
And by the way, I told AIPAC, I said, look, the analogy, if the NRA was supporting a bunch of politicians and cared about the Second Amendment, and you had politicians that vote to confiscate people's guns, and the NRA turned around and raised money for the people who voted to confiscate guns, you know what? No one would ever care what they said again.
So you're making the case.
So he's conflating AIPAC, speaking on Israeli relations and U.S. relations, to a constitutional right that all of us have, as long as you're not a felon. We have a right to bear arms. That is nothing alike. It's not even close. You literally just made a case for a lobby that is trying to protect constitutional rights and compared it to a foreign lobby. American are doing it, but it's for another nation, the one that you wanted to make priority when you ran for Senate. Nothing alike, not even close.
I said AIPAC is not as powerful as people say it is, and I completely agree with you. I've watched that, and I'm not making the case that AIPAC is all powerful and they're running everything and putting fluoride in the water. I'm not making that case at all, because that's not true. I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country and they're not registered. And you're saying, no, that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
Of course, I coordinate. Do they talk with them? I don't know what they do. I can.
But why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government?
Hey, I talk with Israel all the time.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Countries all the time.
But the law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working from Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if I don't, I can go to jail. People have gone to jail, including people I know. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. They're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating with the Israeli government.
Not only not true, that's false. That's redundant. Uncle L, appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much for the donation. I don't know why this is such a point of contention. I don't know why he's so against just admitting what it is. It's clear what it is. Everyone knows. Well, I won't say everyone knows, but anyone who looks into it will say, well, wait a minute. If they're all about Israel, then that's definitely a foreign nation and it's a foreign lobby. Like, why is I don't understand why he's so sensitive on this.
Do you know how AIPAC raises money?
What?
For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
Yeah, I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with them.
So what they'll do is, so in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser. And they'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who will host it. And it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, someone who hosts it. And you get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city,
right?
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. Yeah. And if they have, 50 people, each of them writes a $1,000 check.
It's telling a story.
Yeah,
that
doesn't matter. I know what it looks like.
But that is not, and by the way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have, when you're in Dallas, you're meeting with...
This is such a false and silly conversation. I know all this. The question is are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's
a really
different
simple
from
question.
lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you a question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Hey, are they shaped by?
Are they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes.
The Israeli government?
Directing them? You want to talk about FARA, the law on lobbying on behalf of someone?
Yeah.
It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they're not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but...
Do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics?
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing.
Here we go.
The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question: what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now, Senator.
You're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly.
He didn't talk about Jews at all. I don't even know where that came from. That is insane that he just said that. Why are the Jews? He didn't say anything about you. He's talking about Israel and AIPAC. This part of the conversation is so wild because he's getting defensive for no reason. Hey, this is weird. I don't understand why you're doing this. And he's implying anti-Semitism. This is one of the things that frustrates me the most about the Black communities. We're so quick to assume things are racial. This is the exact same thing what he's doing right now. You got pulled over. Were you speeding? Yes. So you got pulled over? Yes. But it's because I'm Black. Okay. What are we doing here? That's what he's doing.
Sincerely for Israel, I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing.
Very weird.
The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the...
They aren't the ones that we're funding to spy on us and lobbying the government. They may be lobbying the government, but I know for a fact I've looked at those books where people have to register. That's how I know Hunter didn't register.
French. The question: what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly what you just said.
Put a 1 in the chat if you heard Tucker say, "Why are the Jews running the government?" Put a 2 if you don't know what he's talking about. I'm curious as if anyone heard what he heard, and I don't understand how he heard it. I'll disagree with you if you did hear that. That's amazing to me. That is amazing to me. Why are the Jews? the word Jew wasn't even brought up in this conversation. I don't know where that came from.
Sincerely for Israel, I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question: what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
You're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
That's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have
That's exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession.
If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why you would ask about a foreign government having an impact on our government. You have to be an anti-Semite. That's the only reason you would be asking these questions. How come you're not asking this about China? Because the conversation isn't about China. If this conversation were about Hunter Biden, then the conversation would be about China and Ukraine. But it's not. This is fascinating to me. I don't understand this, especially coming from somebody who's supposedly on the right. This is from the liberal playbook. I don't know why he's doing this right now. This is embarrassing. This is really embarrassing.
Obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran, and so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran.
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise, and I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews.
Not one question was, what about the Jews? This is insane. And I've seen people do this to Candace Owens. She's more anti-Zionist. But anti-Jew, I don't see that. But they just attack, and this is a form of trying to shut somebody up. That's all this is. I've seen family members do this in the whole black conversation. I've seen this. This is what they do, and it's not right. This is really, really nasty.
Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence of
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other.
No, all Jews are an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because specific decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment of foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try to...
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I'm
just asking questions. Yes, that's it. That is what I'm doing.
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit. When I ran for the Senate, AIPAC didn't support me. I supported Israel before they supported me. I'm happy to have their support because they share my objective.
No, but you're missing it. I'm not suggesting that you're bought and paid for. I'm not saying that.
Actually, I want to go back and take
sincere.
I want to go back and take the transcript because you just said a minute ago, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but are you lobbying for a foreign government because they pay you a lot of money? That's basically what you said. So you are suggesting.
Let me just be clear about what I think. Your views seem totally sincere.
Yes.
You take money from people who agree with you.
Yeah.
I believe that. I
take money from people who disagree with me.
I'm only trying to get to the question of to what extent is the U.S. government influenced by other governments? And
that's such a simple question, and they've just spent 10 minutes on it because Ted Cruz, for whatever reason, doesn't want to answer. He just doesn't want to answer, and he's resorted to calling this man names. which means anybody who's thinking like Tucker is well, you have to be anti-Semite. Why else would you be asking these questions about your government, your representative government? I thought we had a right to do that, but apparently we don't.
It's a lot.
Of course,
it's hardly just Israel. It's hardly just Israel. I don't think Israel's the main one. There are lots of governments. China is a massive influence on the city.
And it's a huge
As
problem.
you know, I couldn't agree more. And there are lots of other. The UK, which is a truly sinister place, in my opinion, as a ethnic Brit, I can say. I think that's my view. Maybe you disagree.
I think they're on the wrong path. I love the Brits, but their government
without
is
even
gone
getting
off the
into that.
rails.
I'm just saying I don't think Israel's the only one. But it's the only one where you're instantly called an anti-Semite for asking questions. And it's also the only government that no one will ever criticize. And I find
criticize Israel every minute of every day. Like the only government that people will not criticize, Rashida Tlaib just tweeted out calling Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal.
Rashida Tlaib? No,
Benjamin Netanyahu was actually charged by the international, I don't know the organization, but it's one that we fund. They said that he committed war crimes. So I don't like Rashida Tlaib at all. I don't agree with anything she says, but she was right. There's calling somebody something like that doesn't mean that you're anti anything. And I do believe, actually, I believe she's an anti-Semite, but that doesn't mean everything she says is wrong. And she was correct in this instance. I don't know what he's doing. I really, really don't. I really don't. How you doing, Miss Genesis?
Said no one will criticize.
No, I'm talking about Republicans that I would vote for, including you. And I'm saying, whatever. I don't even like talking about Israel. What I care about, I never do, because it's not worth being called anti-Semites from AIPAC recipients. But now we are on the verge of joining a war, and I just want to be clear about why we're doing this.
All right, so, and let's get into Iran momentarily, but you suggested it was a strange thing that I said a minute ago, that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be the leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why. So let me tell you why.
No, you said I was obsessed with Israel, and you had just told me that, like, your driving motive to get to the Senate was to defend Israel. I'm like, I don't think I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel.
Okay, Tucker, words matter. And you know that. I said I resolved to be the leading defender of Israel, and you said your driving motive, the reason you're in the Senate.
You want to be the leading defender of Israel. I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug abuse on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. And you played a very, very careful word game of eliding.
You're the one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian,
this is important.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
All right. I'm not going to teach theology today, but this part here, to me, is insane. This is insane, because he started this out as a Christian. And there are a lot of Christian Israeli supporters. I don't understand why there's a tie, period. But I want you guys to listen to what he says. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of information that you guys can go look up yourselves, because this is insane. This is insane that this is a U.S. senator's driving force for his support of Israel.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
That's in the Old Testament, which is important.
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the...
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. You don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on. No.
Biblically, we're commanded to support Israel, is what this Christian just said. And we're commanded in Genesis. I'll go over that in a second.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And we're
what does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation God's referring to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
I'm no scholar. But what he just said is insane. And I've heard other people making this argument that as Christians, we need to support Israel because we were commanded so in the Bible. That is an Old Testament verse in Genesis. And that's what God told Abraham about the nation of Israel. Why that's important is because the Old Testament is under an old covenant. As a Christian, I don't understand why he's looking back to Genesis when he can look in the New Testament and learn. I don't know why he's talking about stuff that he learned in Bible school as a child. The man looks, he's got to be 60. Another name for Jesus Christ was Israel. So now if you take that exact same scripture, let's go back to what he says, because this to me is unbelievable. Just throwing out scriptures out there like that and not having any context or providing any context and stating it as a reason why you ran for Senate. To me, insanity. What's going on, Mel?
Of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you.
Let's go back.
It's from APAC recipients. But now we're on the verge of joining a war, and I just want to be clear about why we're doing this.
All right, so, and let's get into Iran momentarily, but you suggested it was a strange thing that I said a minute ago, that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be the leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why, so let me tell you why.
No, you said I was obsessed with Israel, and you had just told me that like your driving motive to get to the Senate was to defend Israel. I'm like, I don't think I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel.
Okay.
All right, so here it is. Listen to what he says. I want you guys to take this quote. I'm going to stop it for 1 second. Yeah, G. Will. This is wild. This is wild. And I know this is why I wanted to talk about this part. I wanted to go slow on this part. And hopefully the next time you guys hear somebody say something like this, you can say, well, wait a minute. That's not technically, you're just throwing something out you heard another Republican say. That's what it sounds like to me.
So Tucker, words matter.
Uh-huh.
And you know that. I said I resolved to be the leading defender of Israel. And you said your driving motive, the reason you're in the Senate.
You want to be the leading defender of Israel. I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug abuse on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. And you played a very, very careful word game of eliding.
You're the one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
I want you guys to think about this. Write it down if you have to. Those who bless Jesus will be blessed. Those who curse Jesus will be cursed. Think about it that way, because again, if you want to go to Isaiah 49, you can read it. Another name for Jesus is Israel in the new covenant, not the old. So I don't know why, as a Christian, this is even being brought up. That's one. Number two, I don't know why, as a public servant, this is swaying your running for office, period. Now, this is a nation found under Judeo-Christian values, but that's all in law. What he's saying is a biblical verse from the Old Testament, which Jewish people go by. And as a Christian, completely ignoring Isaiah 49 and saying that Christians need to go by something God told Abraham when Jesus fulfilled all those prophecies in the New Testament. And he was called Israel. And I don't understand why people think this, because this is something, it's not, oh, yes. It's not just Israel, it's the Hebrew Israelites. This is something they believe. I'm not here to bash them. That's not something that I subscribe to. Hebrew Israelites believe that everyone who goes to heaven is going to be their slaves. Okay. Hey, believe what you're going to believe. But when I see a Christian go up there and misstate something, and maybe it's his interpretation, seriously, maybe it is. Christians operate under the new covenant. We believe in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was the Israel being referred to in Isaiah 49, and it said the exact same thing. So when you're thinking about what he said about blessing and cursing, replace that word Israel with Jesus, and it makes much more sense for Christians. For Jewish people, absolutely not. They fall right in line with what he's saying. But he's a Christian. He says he's a Christian, and his driving force for running for Senate was to be the leading defender of Israel. And the Israel he's referring to has nothing to do with Christianity. I'm just saying. It's not the nation of Israel that's being referred to. Now, in Genesis it is. But as a Christian, it's referring to Jesus. And I don't know where he's getting this from. It seems like he read something or somebody told him that. He didn't look into it at all. And I know I'm annoying to a lot of people when I go to church because I want to learn and I don't move forward till I have a full understanding. And it doesn't seem as if he does that. Because we don't live by that. We don't live by that. We don't have an alliance with the nation of Israel as Christians. We don't. We honor, we read, we study, we learned from the Old Testament, and everything refers back. But Jesus is the one who fulfilled all of those prophecies, not the nation of Israel. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't understand what he's saying. That's not the same Israel. And he so casually said, yeah, that's the same Israel. No, it's not. It really isn't, dude. It really isn't. I'm glad I heard this, so I have a better understanding when I see him because he's a very smart guy and I like him. But now knowing that that's his driving force behind running for Senate, I will never vote for this guy again. Not going to happen. You're running for Israel. But when we pledge our allegiance, it's to this country, our flag, not Israel's. It should not be a driving force. It should not be a religious fervor. It has nothing to do. The United States is the United States. You represent me. What he's saying is he represents Israel, defending Israel, which by default somehow, I don't know. I don't know how it relates to me or you in this chat. I really don't know how. That's crazy.
And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use it.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused.
Wow.
What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
No.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian. And I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This majority Christian country.
That's what God said to Israel, or to Abraham about Israel. But he was speaking about the nation of Israel. He was not speaking about this government with Bibi Netanyahu that just bombed Iran last week. That's not what he was talking about. And I can show you New Testament references that say that that's not. He was talking about now. That was in Genesis, but that had nothing to do with me or you or anybody in this chat. That was specifically God talking to Abraham. That's it. This is wild. When I saw this, I'm like, that's not. And my wife was walking past. I was like, that's not what that means. I'm no scholar, but when I see things and I hear things, I go into it. I look into them, and I've heard this a long time ago because I always wondered the same thing: like, where do they get this from? So I looked into this years ago and learned that this is not the case. But here he is in 2025 regurgitating this, and I'm like, huh? You're going to run with that we're commanded to support Israel?
Define Israel. Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked. Like,
and he's arrogant and he's smirking as if you don't know what Israel is. Clearly, you don't know Israel is Jesus. In your book, you clearly don't know that. And you're smirking to this guy because you think Israel is the country over in the Middle East right now that just was formed in the 70s.
49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the
God's
descendants of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
You
that is
believe
Israel.
that's what God was talking about
Yes.
in Genesis.
I do.
That's insane. That's insane. And this is another great point, Mel. Supporting Israel doesn't mean always agreeing with their decisions. And he doesn't seem to understand that. So support doesn't mean just blindly doing and agreeing with anything they do. There's a problem going on in Israel right now. And I actually didn't talk, but I kind of talked about this. When you have 30 to 100,000 dead Palestinians, and you refuse to allow any media from anywhere in without being escorted by your military, these kinds of questions become serious and more serious, because the question is going to turn into, well, how come you don't want us to go in there? There's been, I said this last live, there have been correspondence from every news outlet in every war as long as there's been news. It's what they do. Israel's saying, no, it's too dangerous. We don't want to let you into this war. Okay, so then we're going to start asking questions when stuff happens. And you're allowing Hamas, whether they're lying or not, to create a narrative. You're allowing that because you refuse to let news in there. So now you have a problem to deal with. But Israel, in the New Testament, as a Christian, is not the same thing as what he's talking about. If he were Jewish, I'd have no issue with what he's saying. None at all. I don't know what he's talking about. What he's saying is wild to me.
But
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. That's in the context of what he's talking about. Speaking of Abraham, that's literally what it is.
Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is. So I
don't remember the scriptural citation. But okay,
it's like Genesis 16 or something like that. But yes, it's in the earlier part of the book. But the point is,
all right, Tucker, you keep interrupting me before I finish my sentence.
It's important to know what you're talking about. I don't know what so you're saying as a Christian, if I believe in Jesus, I have to support the modern state of Israel?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm explaining for me what my motivation is.
But okay, so I'm just trying to understand. You said God tells you to support the modern state of Israel in the Bible, in some place in the Bible that you heard about, but you don't know where it is. That's your theology?
You're going back, am I a sleazy feline again? I mean,
if you accuse me of anti-Semitism again, I will say that, but I don't think you will.
Try to be a little less condescending. I'm trying to have a conversation.
Condescending. You're throwing this stuff out, and it's my job to figure out what you're talking about, but I don't understand.
But you're not letting me.
Okay. I'm sorry. I want to be polite.
That is, for me, a personal motivation, but I also, what I was about to say, I don't believe my personal faith, not everyone who I represent is a Christian. It's not an argument for me to give that we should do this because of my faith. And so as an elected official, I don't give that as the reason we should.
See how he shifted it when he realized, oh, this doesn't sound good. Let me start saying that my personal belief is not a means to run for office. So he realized quickly how he sounded. And he's shifting like, all right, let's see. This is unbelievable. Exactly, Melda.
Support Israel. That is a personal motivation for me, but I don't think it is the reason we should. The reason that I'm the leading defender of Israel is because Israel is our strongest ally in the Middle East, an incredibly troubled part of the world, and supporting Israel benefits America. And the clearest illustration of that is what is happening right now. Let me just make this point. And then
I'll just ask what you mean. That's it. Okay. Yeah.
Look, Iran, I think the most acute national security threat facing America right now is the threat of a nuclear Iran. I think China is the biggest long-term threat, but acute and near-term is a nuclear Iran.
Okay.
And I think Israel...
It was just Russia. Everyone knows it's China, and now it's Iran.
Israel is doing a massive favor to America right now by trying to take out Iran's nuclear capacity. And the reason I view Iran differently, we talked before about Iraq. I posed the Iraq war. We talked about Syria. I posed military intervention in Syria. The reason for that is those did not pose a threat to the United States. I think Iran is markedly different. Number one, the Ayatollah is a religious zealot. He is a lunatic.
Sounds like you're a religious zealot, but you don't even know what you're talking about. We are commanded to support Israel.
But a particularly dangerous kind of lunatic, because he's driven by religious fervor. When he says death to America and death to Israel, I believe him. And I think Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon because there is a very real possibility they would use a nuclear weapon. So you want to ask, how does supporting Israel benefit us? Right now, this tiny little country, the size of the state of New Jersey, is fighting our enemies for us and taking out their top military leadership and trying to take out their nuclear capacity. That makes America much safer.
So the president has said repeatedly Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon,
Yes.
and he will do whatever it takes to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. He said that like 100 times. He clearly means it. I think he will use force to effect that if he feels he has to. I think he's been really clear about that. I don't know, but it seems that way. Do you feel it? Do you think that's correct?
Whether he would use force to stop a nuclear weapon, I think he has put that option on the
He
table.
certainly suggests. I mean, I have literally
He's
no
put that
idea what's
option
going to
on the
happen, but just reading his statements, he's made that really clear.
So what he has been very clear about, and I spoke with the president on Sunday, is he has been very clear to Iran that if they attack U.S. servicemen and women,
Of
there will
course,
be real
that goes without
consequences
saying.
and I think very serious military.
By the way, this is a sidebar, but I just can't resist. The prime minister of Israel said that Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump twice.
Yeah, I read your newsletter this morning, and
But you believe that's true?
again, I think it was sort of a word game. What is true is Iran is trying to assassinate Donald J. Trump, and they have hired hitmen. Now, you pointed out...
No, he said that they had tried twice to kill him, and I don't know that, I don't have any evidence that's true, but I sort of wonder if that is true. Why aren't we at war with them already?
Okay, and I read your newsletter this morning, and I thought it was playing word games to draw a political point.
How's that a word game? It's my president. And
Can I tell you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. You rightly pointed out there's no evidence that this clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, who shot the president was working for the Iranians. I don't think he was. There's no evidence of that. Although I would like to know more about who he was and what's going on. But I don't find it plausible that he was working for the Iranians. So, was that caused by the Iranians? No. But what is true, and what your newsletter didn't acknowledge, is it true or false that Iran is currently trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen to do so?
Well, that's the question, and I don't know the Butler, Pennsylvania thing. Let's just put that aside. I don't know.
So Netanyahu misspoke when he said those two assassinations were because of Iran. But what he was saying that is right is they're actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump.
Is there?
All right. So important context, so I don't have to keep stopping it or rewinding it. Tucker's about to hold him to those words. He just said that they are actively trying to unalive Donald Trump. A foreign government is actively, and he knows, is actively trying to unalive the president of the United States. So Tucker, from this point forward, is going to hold him to those words and make him stand on that. And I want you guys to watch what happens, because you can't just say something like that because you don't like somebody and you want to make us sympathetic to what's going on over in the Middle East. You can't just say something like that. Or correction, you can say it, but you need to stand on it.
Okay, so you're aware of a
Yes.
plot to kill Trump?
Yes, that Iran is paying for. And by the way,
Wait, when?
it has been over the last, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years.
In the United States?
In the United States, yes. And let me point out,
Has anyone been arrested?
for the Trump attempted assassination, no. But they are also actively paying Iranian hitmen to murder Mike Pompeo when he was President Trump's first Secretary of State, the first term rather. John Bolton, when John Bolton was National Security Advisor to President Trump. And a guy named Brian Hook, who was Assistant Secretary of State.
Right.
During the Biden administration.
Wait, but hold on. Can we go back to Donald Trump because he's the president? No, it's a big deal. What do you mean? When no one has been arrested for these assassination attempts on Trump.
Yes.
They've hired hitmen. How do we know that?
All right, let me break it down. People have been arrested. So the reason I brought up Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook, who are under active assassination attempts because of their service in the first Trump administration, under the Biden
Well, they say that. I've never seen any evidence of it.
Can I give you the evidence?
Well, let's just stick with Trump.
No, because these are interrelated. So let's.
He's trying to sidetrack. You said out of your mouth that you know of a plot, and it's happened twice in the last 2 years or so, within the last 2 years, to assassinate President of the United States of America. You said that. Now you're talking about John Bolton, who everybody hates. There are probably people in this country who want to assassinate him. Now you're talking about Pompeo, another one. Evil dude, evil. But get back to what you said. Make them stand on it, Tucker.
So let me make a bloody point. Under the Biden administration, the State Department was spending $2 million a month providing security for Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook. And they did arrest Iranian hitmen at John Bolton's apartment complex who rented, I think, the apartment next to him and were actively trying to assassinate him, and they went and arrested them. So yes, they caught Iranian hitmen. Now, it so happens Iran's not very good at it. And so they are actively trying. And in fact,
but what about Trump? He's the president. If there's a plot to kill Trump by the Iranians,
okay, so you dispute that the
deal.
Iranians are trying to kill Trump?
Of course. I mean, that's the most important question. The Prime Minister of Israel just said there have been 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump by the Iranians. And I think it's a very fair question, maybe you disagree, to ask, what are you talking about?
Okay, and I agree with you that he misspoke.
So there weren't those 2 attempts?
There were 2 attempts, but the clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the other guy on the golf course were not connected to the Iranians. That's the part that he misspoke. But by the way, when you speak all the time, occasionally, what he said that was accurate is that Iran is actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen.
Okay, but right, okay, that's fine.
And he was conflating it with the 2 attempts.
I understand. But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. Yeah. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where's that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has, and the public. I mean, we had multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Yes. And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now. We should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
So he raised the stakes as high as they could possibly go. As high as could possibly go. They are trying to assassinate the president of the United States. Okay, so we need to go to war with them now. No. Okay, dude, you just said they're trying to assassinate the leader of the free world. But then when you're asked if we should go to war with them now, you say no. So do you really believe that, Mr. Cruz? Senator Cruz. Do you really believe that they're trying to do this? Because if you did, it's a no-brainer. We should be over there bombing them. What are we waiting for Israel to do this for? We should be there. You have proof, Senator Cruz, that the Ayatollah has sent hitmen to this country to take out our president. That is war. That's beyond war. That is beyond war. That is ending them. To say no when he says, well, I guess we should be at war, then no, we don't. They're not good at it. They're just trying. Really?
But if they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
Then why are we at war with them?
Well, we are trying to...
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump.
Make him stand on his words because he's clearly lying. And he's trying to use rhetoric that would make Americans sympathetic to the Israel war with Iran. So make him stand on those words. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Make him stand on his words. Hey, whoa, that's a serious charge. That means we need to attack Iran now. This country needs to. Tell Israel, don't worry about it. We got this. Instead, he's saying, you made the worst possible charges, but you don't want to punish them. I don't believe you.
And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe there's
the use of nuclear weapons, see,
whatever
part
it
of the
takes.
problem of.
So what do you mean? You don't seem to take the allegation seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
Can I ask something? And I mean this sincerely. So, all right, 20 years ago, you were, I think it's fair to say, in the interventionist world, you were a vocal defender of the Iraq War.
I was a promoter of the Iraq War.
And you now, and look, I think you were mistaken. I think you were mistaken. That's okay. Look, people change and learn, and that's part of the journey of being human. Your views have moved, though. In my view, they've gone way too far the other end. And so I'm just totally confused.
I'm saying, hold on. Wait, this is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had. I'm saying if it's true that Iran is trying to murder Trump, we need to move militarily against Iran immediately. That's not isolationism. That's that's a cult of violence, which I am calling for. If we believe that Iran is trying to murder our president, we need to strike Iran.
Okay, but isolationists say things like, well, then just nuke them, which is what you just said. Which is kind of a weird...
Yes. If ever there were a call to use small ones, very small, very small nukes, against a nation, it's when you catch them trying to assassinate the leader of the free world. And he's saying, wait, now you're going too far. So you're okay with what they're doing? You're okay with hitmen in the last 2 years, twice being ordered by the Ayatollah. You're okay with that? Seems weird that you would pull back and say, well, whoa. Unless you realize you went a little too far with the rhetoric.
Set because I'm taking you seriously. You don't take your own statements
I
seriously.
take my statements very seriously.
So I've asked you, where's the evidence this is true? And you said, well, they're trying to assassinate Brian Hook or something, which I'm against, by the way. And I'm against hurting any American, period, no matter.
So you dispute that they're trying to murder
I'm not disputing it at all.
and Bolton?
I'm not disputing it at all.
They arrested the hitman with Bolton.
I don't know why that's even relevant. I'm asking about the President of the United States.
Wait, it's not relevant that Iran hired hitmen to murder cabinet members in Trump's administration? That doesn't go to
I've
how
already
credible
said
is it that they're
I'm
willing to spend money to do
totally
that?
opposed to that. It's awful. I am against killing anybody, actually, and especially foreign government. Okay. I'm asking about your allegation and the Prime Minister of Israel's allegation that Iran is trying to murder the president.
Killing terrorists is a good thing. Killing people who are trying to murder Americans is a good thing. Because if you're America first, you want to protect America. And so killing Osama bin Laden was a fantastic
But you don't really
He's just using generalities now. No. Let's be specific. Stand on your words. Why is he talking about terrorists now? He said the Ayatollah has had 2 Iranian hitmen in this country try to take out our president. That is war. But when you say, whoa, it's time to go to war, no, easy. Are you against what we did with Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden? Has nothing to do with the conversation, sir. Senator, sorry, respectfully.
Believe that they're trying to murder Trump, or
yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Then why aren't you calling for military action against Tehran right now?
Because they're not very effective. In terms of hitmen, their hitmen are not very effective. I do think.
So they're hitmen, but not the bad kind, the efficient kind?
No,
what are you saying?
They're a weak country who is on its knees, and I think we need to.
So they just went from being the biggest threat to this country to being weak and on their knees. If you listen to these politicians long enough, they will tell you what they really believe. So they're not the serious threat, the number one threat that he just said. They're weak. They're not effective at the assassinations. They're just trying. We're going to wait and see if they can actually succeed at it. Then we'll go to war. But you said you know for a fact that they're doing it. This is an insane interchange that you're listening to right now, or exchange. This is absolutely insane what you're listening to. He literally said he has this inside knowledge that he just shared with the world, because I haven't heard this. And instead of saying we need to do something now, in his own words, is they're not effective at it. So we'll wait until they get better at assassinating presidents.
Why are we so afraid of them? Why are they the biggest threat if they're a weak country that's on its knees?
Because I'm trying
to keep track.
They're trying to develop. Be a little less snarky.
I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
They're trying to develop nuclear weapons. They're close to developing nuclear weapons. And even a weak country with a nuclear weapon. Look, I believe there is a very real possibility if the Ayatollah develops a nuclear weapon that he would detonate it either in Tel Aviv or New York or Los Angeles. And that would be utterly catastrophic. And I don't know what the chances are of that. Let me
So combine that with the fact that he's trying to take out our president. We should be there taking them out. This country. This is insane. What he's saying, he's double talking. This is the worst double speak I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of double speaking in politics. A lot. This dude is going to the extreme and talking about this huge threat and then saying how weak they are and that they're not really good at the assassinations.
compare and contrast Iran to North Korea.
Wait, can I ask one last question about trying to kill the president? You sincerely believe, you promise, that right now the Iranian government is trying to murder our president.
Yes,
you sincerely believe right now.
Absolutely.
And yet you are not calling for military action against the government that's trying to murder our president. Can you explain that?
I don't think they're very effective. I do think we should, by the way, America is
You're willing to take that risk?
There it is. They're not, we'll wait until they get better and more effective. This is insanity. This is insanity. Absolutely. This is how he got popular. We looked at each other and said, thanks. But what about our interests? And when he ran against him, we saw how arrogant he was and how easily Trump picked him apart. And it was over Iraq, ironically enough. And now here he is pushing for Iran. We need to go in. Well, no, sorry. We don't need to go in because they're not very effective at being evil. They want to be evil, They're trying to be evil, but they're not fully evil. So we'll let Israel help them. We'll pay them. We'll send our bombers over there. I could disagree with what Trump did more, but he did it. It is what it is. I actually trust his judgment, even when I don't agree what he's doing, because obviously he has more information than I do. But I do trust his judgment and think he's doing what he believes is right. This guy, I don't believe he believes anything. I really don't. I really don't. This is wild listening to him talk.
I think we should protect the president and we should take out our enemies.
Well,
Israel is doing that right now.
But aren't they? Why would we outsource it to Israel if they're trying to? Your first
question was, why are you for regime change? That's a pretty good example of why I'm for regime change.
Okay, so you're saying we should just go in and take out the government of Iran. Why would we outsource it to Israel if they're trying to murder a president? Okay, you sound like the isolationist.
What I'm saying on any military judgment is there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis of what are the risks versus what are the...
The risk is losing a president of the United States. That's the risk. You just talk about the risk-benefit analysis. That's your words. You're okay risking the president of the United States. For what?
What are the benefits? In this instance, I think it is enormously in America's interest to do what Israel is doing right now. Take out Iran's senior military leadership and take out their nuclear capacity. I want to read from your newsletter because
he wants to take out Iran's senior leadership now. So full regime change. Because we haven't done that before.
If you ask what an isolationist is, your newsletter a couple of days ago, you wrote, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and we're hoping to get back to the negotiating table. We will see. There are several people in leadership in Iran that will not be coming back, Trump said, following the strikes.
Right.
It's worth taking a step back and wondering how any of this helps the United States. We can't think of a single way. Okay, that to me is the essence of isolationism. And let me just ask you, when the Ayatollah chants death to America, I believe him. Do you not believe him? Do you think he doesn't mean it when he says death to America?
Well, I think he hates America, for sure. And I'm opposed to that.
And do you think
if you believe him, then we should be at war. Because he didn't just say death to America. You said he's trying to assassinate the president of the United States, the man that this country elected. But you don't want to go to war. But isolationists are the ones who are asking, how come you don't want to go to war? This is pretty serious. Now all of a sudden you become the isolationist. And what Tucker said, you want to outsource what we do to Israel.
he's willing to act on it? It's not just hate America. He also is leading a country and trying to develop
under certain circumstances, for sure. So the question is, do you act in a way that makes that more or less likely? And that's a tough call. It's something that you can debate. One of the ways you shut down debate is by calling people names like isolationists, pretending they're like pro-Nazi or something, or as you did, claiming I'm an anti-Semite. That's not a way to get to a solution or have a rational conversation. That's a way to make people be quiet. And I'm against that. And
okay, so if you don't like the label isolationist, how would you look? Rand, and I served with Rand. Rand is a friend of mine, but Rand opposes every military action in every circumstance.
I don't oppose every military. This whole thing is infantile, and you know that it is. It's a way to call people
so which
names
of Trump's
and
military
make
actions
them,
do you support? And you disagree with them all,
and make them be
give
quiet.
me another name if you don't like that. I'm not trying to have you be quiet. We've been talking an hour and a half. I'm asking if you don't like the name isolationist, how would you describe it?
I would describe myself in the same way you falsely described yourself in this conversation.
Falsely.
Yes,
so
falsely.
what did I say false?
You said that the only thing that matters in a foreign policy decision is whether it helps the United States.
I didn't say the only. I said the predominant.
That's what I understood.
Okay.
So let me revise what you said and apply it.
I would say only. That's what I would say. But his other thing, so he's the predominant. The other thing for him is defending Israel, which is because the Bible commands we support Israel. Insanity.
To myself and say the only thing that matters is whether or not it serves the United States. And I feel very stung by what happened in Iraq, if I'm being honest. Possibly because, unlike you, I guess, I supported it. And I saw us get drawn into it in a way that nobody anticipated. And I saw the cost, just about $3 trillion. And the cost on so many levels to the United States was just so profound. And I felt like, gosh, it reminds me of Kaiser Wilhelm in 1914 saying, my men will be back by the time the leaves turn. And of course, that destroyed Christian Europe. So it's like you don't really know where these things are going once the shooting starts. That's my only point. And calling people names, anti-Semite, isolationist, to get them to stop talking is not the way to serve your country. That's all I'm saying.
So I'm trying to have a real and serious conversation. Right. And look, a lot of this has been contentious. I wish it had not, because as we started out by saying, you and I agree vehemently on 80% of the issues. This discussion is focused on the 20% where we don't. I will say, look, on Iraq, you look at the 2016 presidential campaign where you had 17 Republicans running. If you set Rand aside, and his views are on one side, there were only two candidates on that stage that opposed the Iraq war. Me and Donald Trump were the only two. Everyone else thought the Iraq war was a great thing. I think it was a disaster. So you and I agree on that as well. In my view, you went I think your foreign policy has gone too far. So, I mean, let me ask you, is there a military action Trump has undertaken that you agree with? Because I've not heard anything.
A military, look, I would say it's really simple. I believe in self-defense. That's why I keep firearms at home. I think it's morally justified to defend yourself, your family, your property, your nation. And so to the extent that you can deter a threat through violence, violence always being the least appealing choice, violence always being, if I can finish, always being a tragedy, I think you can justify the use of violence in self-defense. That's my personal view. And
that is my position on Israel until it just kept going on and on and on and on. And here we are a year or two later, and it's still going on and on and on, which means we need to stay out of that. Because there's no way that should still be going on. If you're going to meet those actions with the force necessary to deal with those actions, it shouldn't still be going on. Which tells me there's more going on. And it's none of our business. How long are we going to, I mean, it's the Hatfields and McCoys. It's not going to stop because we go and help either side. We don't need to help either side. We just don't.
applies to me and to the country that I live in. Those are my views. That's not an isolationist view. It's not an anti-Israel view. It's not an anti-Semitic view, with apologies. It is, I think, a pretty common sense view. But my problem is that lawmakers in Washington are light on detail with these things, and they speak, as you do, entirely in moral terms. These people are bad. These people are...
I'm not speaking entirely in moral terms. I'm not interested in killing bad guys. I'm interested in killing people who are trying to kill us.
If we had...
That's different. I'm not engaged in morality.
Are you now? Because you told me that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump. And then you
that
said...
is undisputed. There's literally nobody who disputes that fact.
Then why don't you support military action right now against Iran?
We are engaged in military action right now.
Why don't you... Really? Why don't you support offensive military action?
We're bombing the crap out of them. Israel is, and we're supporting them. Israel is.
Okay. Really? So why shouldn't the U.S. military defend its own president? I don't understand that.
Look, and it goes back to...
Because you don't really believe it's true, that's why.
Everyone... Okay, nobody disputes it, Tucker. Did you land on the moon? What other conspiracies do you not believe? Was 9/11 an inside job? I mean, like what?
So I've asked you the names of these people.
I don't know the names of the Iranian hitmen. I know it because the U.S. military and the intelligence agencies have testified before Congress repeatedly.
And what did they say?
That Iran is trying to murder Donald Trump and has hired hitmen. Do I know the name of the hitmen? No, I'm sorry. And I don't think we do either, because we would apprehend them if we knew their names.
Then why don't you take it seriously enough to support killing the Ayatollah in response to protect our president? But you don't. This doesn't even make any sense.
It makes no sense. It's actually insane to watch him get frustrated. It's not even up for dispute. Everyone knows this. Then why aren't you doing anything about it? We are in Israel. Oh, really? We are? Okay.
And you're calling me an isolationist. If I believed that was true, I would support military action against the government of Iran.
Okay, that's interesting, because there is literally...
You can't kill our president.
All right, out of 535 members of Congress, I am not aware of one who disputes that Iran is trying to murder Donald J. Trump. That's not even the looniest Democrat doesn't dispute that. So I don't. You're saying if you believed what is, I think, a fact that they are trying.
You think it's a fact? Yes. What is the fact exactly?
That they've hired hitmen
in the United States.
Yes,
Americans.
Yeah, he's not in Iran, so they haven't hired hitmen.
No, but are they the hitmen American?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you what. And by the way, I'm not the CIA. I'm not the Department.
He's got all these facts, but he doesn't know anything about them. So, do you know the names? No. You know, there's two of them. Yes. When did it happen? Within the last 2 years. Are they American? I don't know. But it's a fact. Nobody disputes this. Dude, you just... It's so ridiculous.
Defense. I'm telling you what they have told us.
I'm not disputing it. I'm merely saying...
We are.
That I'm not. I'm saying the logic train has a massive hole in it. If you believe that's true, then you should, by definition, support killing the people trying to kill our president. But you don't support that. Now, Tucker, so I'm wondering what's going on here.
Tucker, you took offense to the word isolationist, and I genuinely don't mean it as a pejorative. I disagree with it. But if you don't like that term, I don't know how else to describe what is a coherent foreign policy that says we're surrounded by two giant nations. By the way, isolationism has long been a school of foreign policy. I believe in self-defense. I'm not, but not into the slurs, the anti-Semite stuff. I just don't like that. I'm telling you what I believe. But is there a single military action Trump took that you agree with? So do you agree with taking out General Soleimani?
Oh, I don't know. It turned out better than I thought. I
mean, you said at the time it would lead us to World War III.
I thought I was worried about it. I've seen that.
Well, but that proved not the case.
I was wrong, as I have been many times.
Normal people can do what he just did and say, I was wrong. What's the point here? So Cruz has switched the subject again off of these assassins. And now he's trying to quiz Tucker on what he thinks is a good military action. You support anything? And he's like, I was wrong. It's okay to admit to being wrong.
Do you agree with taking out the ISIS caliphate?
All of us.
Well, if we took the ISIS caliphate, why are they running Syria right now? And you're for that. Why is that?
What do you mean? I didn't say I'm for that.
You don't seem to have a problem with it.
I didn't
say ISIS is now running Syria. You're like, well, if we took the ISIS caliphate.
This is great.
So, but is there a single military action Trump took that you agree with? So do you agree with taking out General Soleimani?
Oh, I don't know. It turned out better than I thought. I guess.
I mean, you said at the time
This
it was
is
like
great.
I thought I was worried about it. I've seen that.
Well,
happen.
but that proved not the case.
I was wrong, as I have been many times.
Did you agree with taking out the ISIS caliphate?
But
There we go. There we go.
if we took the ISIS caliphate, why are they running Syria right now? And you're for that. Why is that?
What do you mean? I didn't say I'm for that.
You don't obviously have a problem with it.
I didn't
That
say
ISIS
that.
is now running Syria. You're like, we'll see.
No, I
I know why.
By the way,
I know
I
why.
didn't push
You don't
Assad
care.
out. Assad toppled.
It's hilarious.
You
It's
know
like
why I don't
Assad
care?
is bad, but no, ISIS runs Syria, but that's fine. We'll just kind of wait and see on ISIS. Not a big deal.
You know
not a big
why?
deal. They're trying to kill
Hold
Trump.
on a second. I want to get back. You know why I don't care, and why, and you do your like trademark smirky laugh. I know
What
why
are
you
you
don't
even
care.
talking about?
What? Why don't I care?
I don't know why. You tell me. Because you think it's okay because they're not making angry noises or something. But by your own standards, ISIS is so immoral that they must die. But now they're running Syria, and you don't think that we should take military action against the government of Syria because why? They're ISIS.
What I said is I don't know how good or bad it'll be. Look, I wasn't pushing Assad out. He fell. He fell on his own, in part because he was heavily supported by Hezbollah. And when Israel took out the Hezbollah leadership, he lost his base of
But
support.
the current ISIS leadership, you don't think is bad? You can't say it's terrible that ISIS runs a country?
I am concerned about it.
Concerned? Aren't you horrified?
I want to see what they do.
If you guys paid attention to politics over the last 10 years, ISIS, evil, evil, evil. And I don't even dispute it because I've seen beheading videos. What is fascinating is that Tucker's right. They're now running a country and we don't have the same rhetoric against them. We don't say the same things anymore. Why? It's the same people. In Afghanistan, we literally gave a U.S. military base to the Taliban. We negotiated with them to give back, they allowed, I forget how many people. I forget how many people were in Afghanistan during that pullout. They agreed with us. Well, okay, we'll let all the Americans go before we take over your base and get all of this money and all of these weapons that we left there. So I don't understand how we go from Taliban evil, ISIS evil to they're all right, not a big deal. Fascinating thought process.
Oh, so you got a wait and see attitude on ISIS now?
On the government of Syria, they are not actively, that I am aware of, trying to murder Americans. And that's a real dividing line. Are you trying to murder Americans or
I'm
not?
just saying it's a little weird that we waged this war against ISIS and now they're running a country in the Mediterranean. I think that people would be very, very upset about that. But you don't seem
By the
very
way,
upset about
did
that.
you agree with Trump taking out al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS?
I'm totally opposed to ISIS. And what I care about is results, actually. And if taking out the head of ISIS ends ISIS, I guess I'm for it. But now ISIS runs Syria.
Okay,
so I'm wondering how does this work?
I mean, my point is...
At the time, I mean, I've taken so many different positions over the years, some of which have been wrong. I really do my best to be honest and correct if they are and admit that I was wrong. I'm not one of these people who's like, I've always been consistent. No, my views change all the time because the facts change all the time. You're not going to get consistency from me. You're only going to get sincerity.
Well, I will say this. And look, I believe you're sincere.
Yeah.
But...
I'm not God. I'm just some guy watching, trying to figure out the right thing for America.
And I think because you believe you were mistaken, and I agree previously, I think you overcorrected.
Overcorrected. I'm worried about turning this mess in Iran into a much larger mess. That's the concern. And
by the way, that's a reasonable worry. Look,
I know it's reasonable. And I know you're ready to call me all these names for you're just asking questions. Yes, I am. Here's, I guess, what bothers me is that I said 2 weeks ago, the real goal here is regime change in Iran. It's not.
I don't think that's Trump's goal.
It's your goal. It's Israel's goal. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying it's important to be honest and not lie and not attack people for telling the truth.
So I believe I've been assiduously honest in this, but words matter. You said the real goal here is regime change, and it's your goal. And I want to be clear.
Well, you said it was your goal.
I want to be clear because words matter. Do I support regime change and would I like a government that doesn't hate America and isn't trying to kill us in Iran? Yes, that's a good outcome. Is that the objective of these military strikes? I don't think necessarily. I don't know if it's Israel. It's not my objective. My objective is taking out...
U.S. If Israel decides we're going to decapitate the government and try to foment an uprising against it, should the United States participate in that operation in any way?
Look, I have not called for killing the Ayatollah. And there is nations in war generally refrain from attacking and killing heads of state. Now, the Ayatollah doesn't. He's trying to kill Trump. We talked about that.
But we shouldn't punish him for it.
Look, there has been a long-standing nations in war have refrained from killing heads of state. I have not publicly called for killing the Ayatollah. What I've called for is doing whatever is necessary to stop him from getting nuclear weapons. In the first Trump term, what that meant was maximum pressure.
Okay, so you topple the regime by whatever means. What happens then? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's...
Well, because...
It's relevant because you're about to impact 92 million lives off of a whim. Off of a whim. of something you think they might do. And you could be right, but you should at least know what you're doing when you're talking about doing it. 92 million people. We're talking 92 million people you're about to impact. And you're like, I don't know. I don't look at what do I need to know the populations for? Because you're about to impact that many people. You just sat here crying about them saying they hate us. Maybe it's because you have an attitude like this. 92 million people. And you're like, I don't know. What's the big deal? That's more than all of the, I'd say, 4 largest states in this country. That's a lot of people you're talking about getting rid of their elected official, their president. You're okay with that. This is weird. This whole conversation is crazy.
90 million or 80 million or 100 million. Why is that
because if you don't know anything about the country,
I didn't say I don't know anything about.
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not
okay.
even, you don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. If you really believe that,
we're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was
right with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
We're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay, we are not bombing them.
Oh, okay.
Israel is bombing them. And why do you do the snide? Oh, okay.
What do you mean? Because
he gets mad every time he gets caught saying something stupid. Because that's not the first time. He said it earlier too, and I was like, huh. We are bombing them right now. So Tucker says we? Well, yeah. Well, they are. But you said we. The whole world is watching this. This is not some small podcast. Especially with you on it, saying stupid stuff. You said we, and you get mad.
This is super high stakes stuff. This is a huge country that borders a lot of other important countries. A lot of the world's energy comes from there. So you don't want another disaster. You don't want to be reckless.
The Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little Satan and America as the great Satan. Do you believe him when he says it's the great Satan? Do you think if the Ayatollah could murder both of us right now that he would? I do. I believe him.
Okay, I assume no good faith on the part of the Ayatollah.
No,
and if your implication is like I'm pro-Ayatollah or something.
No, it's not good faith. It's that
just saying you're a lawmaker. You're a powerful person in Washington. This is the most powerful country in the world. If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
Okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric with no facts. And to be clear,
I'm not calling for the overthrow of the government.
You put out a newsletter attacking Donald Trump and calling him complicit.
I've never attacked Donald Trump.
Yes, you have. And by the way,
I campaigned for Donald Trump.
Okay, yes.
And this is after anti-Semitism, this is the last refuge. You're an anti-Semite and you hate Trump.
Okay, I love Trump. I will read. You put out a whole newsletter saying Trump has abandoned America first. And here's what Trump said in response. Well, considering that I'm the one that developed America first, and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one who decides that. For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. That was directed at you.
He's every time he gets caught up, he gets mad, and then he tries to put the other person on defense. But it's not working on Tucker. This is a great conversation. And I know a lot of people who don't like politics are probably like, what the hell are they talking about? This is a phenomenal study. It really is, because it's insane. This has worldwide implications. Toppling a government, you don't know the population, you don't know the makeup of the people there. You don't know anything about it, but you want to displace 92 million people. Just because I heard this. Somebody told me this. Okay, so then we should probably attack. Nah, we'll let these guys do it. But they're coming after our president. No big deal. This dude is all over the place.
You got me. Busted.
No, I'm just saying.
My views, look, I like Trump. I campaigned for Trump. I know Trump. I talked to him last night. I'm not against Trump, and you know that.
But you're against his foreign policy.
I think that we should be very careful about entering into more foreign wars that don't help us when our country is dying.
When you say
our
don't
country
help
is
us,
dying.
Look, yes, focus on our country. I'm all for it. But the naivete.
You don't even know how much money this costs. You don't know anything about the country whose government you want to overthrow, and you're calling me reckless.
I want to stop a lunatic who wants to murder us from getting nuclear weapons that could kill millions of Americans.
Fair.
You say, I can't see how that benefits America in any way. That is bizarre. And by the way,
bizarre.
isolationism, your foreign policy is the foreign policy of Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm a big leftist. This is so silly. Now I'm Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Okay. Let me just say one last thing.
So how is your foreign policy different from Jimmy Carter's? Seriously.
Please.
But I asked that question seriously.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Jimmy Carter?
So
what century is this? I am the product of the last 25 years, watching carefully, being involved in the periphery, and I see an unending string of foreign policy disasters that have impoverished and hurt our country.
Unending string.
Unending string. They would include Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and our inability to stop the Houthis, by the way, in Yemen, which exposes us as weak, and I grieve over that. So these are failures. You helped preside over some of them as a member of the Senate.
What failures, foreign policy failures have I presided over?
Well, we were unable to beat Russia in the war that you supported against Russia. You've been spending the last 3 years telling us that Vladimir Putin is evil and we're going to beat him with other people's children, and 1 million of those kids are now dead. You've never apologized for that. That was a full failure.
By the way, look, the level of number of falsehoods you lay out just in one statement are rather
You haven't supported the war against Russia?
Are rather stunning. So the war against Russia was caused, which I have explained in great detail, by Joe Biden's weakness.
But you supported the war.
If you want to talk, we can talk Russia and Ukraine. I'm happy to talk about it.
Do you think that's been a success?
No, it's been.
We have people on top of our government right now at the pinnacle of power who do not care about the repercussions of their own actions, or even words, it seems like. He supported the war in Ukraine. He absolutely did. Now, he may have pulled back because we were getting towards elections, but he absolutely supported the war in Ukraine. According to Ukraine, over 1 million people have died. So to shrug it off like, like it's not a big deal is sociopathic. You have to be. This is insane. Like, dude, he's shrugging it off like it's not a big deal.
An absolute disaster.
Okay, but you supported it. Shouldn't you apologize?
No, you should apologize. I'm not going to engage in the demanding of apologies. So I'm like,
that's my point. Is all these failures and no one ever says I'm sorry?
Matter, or do you just throw out like you? If you want to talk, we can talk.
Okay, I do. I want to know why. That seems like a true disaster for the United States. You have supported it.
Do you believe Joe Biden's weakness caused the war in Ukraine?
I think Joe Biden's aggression caused it.
His aggression? What aggression?
He demanded that Ukraine join NATO. How does that help the United States?
It is a terrible idea, and I have vigorously opposed Ukraine joining NATO.
Okay, so that's what caused the war.
No, it's not. Okay. Do you want to know what caused the war? Look, you do the dismissive. You're not actually interested in facts. You're like, okay.
Okay, tell me. It seems super obvious. You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. That is a tick of mine that is wrong, and I mean this with sincerity. I'm sorry to do that to you. I just think it seems so obvious that sending Kamala Harris to the NATO Security Conference to say you're going to join NATO is what triggered the invasion days later. Have you questioned any of your previous assumptions? Did you play any role in this at all? Are you responsible at all?
Of course, and like you said.
What have you learned?
Like you said you've changed your mind.
Yeah,
I voted for the first funding of the Ukraine war, and I voted against every subsequent funding stream because it wasn't working. And I looked at what was happening and said, this is not working. And had the money been spent in an intelligent way and not wasted, and had it been successful, I might have been willing to fund more. But it wasn't successful, so I voted no. And the war is going to end. Look, President Trump campaigned on ending the war. I think he's frustrated because Putin has been less than eager to reach a deal to end the war, but it's going to end. You're not going to see another dollar coming from Congress.
Do you think Zelensky wants to end the war?
I think Zelensky has behaved horribly. I think his Oval Office meeting will go down in history as the worst Oval Office meeting of any leader that has ever come to the Oval Office. I think he behaved like a pompous ass. And I think he is unrealistic. I think Zelensky spends his time with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the New York Times, and he believed he was going to the Oval Office as a resist figure. And I think he's doing real damage to his country right now.
You described him many times as a hero.
I don't recall ever using the word hero. I will.
There's a video that I think his team put together, and it highlighted all the times that he called Zelensky a hero. These people have no accountability. And that's what I gather from this whole conversation. It's so arrogant to talk about displacing 92 million people here, 15 million people there, and acting like, it didn't work, but we're better off. Dude. And then you wonder why people hate this country. They see you. And they look at me and tie me to you because I put you there.
I do.
Look, I'm not a Zelensky cheerleader, and I'm not in the business of saying everyone we support has to be a saint and everyone we oppose has to be a villain. I'm not in the morality game. I'm in the U.S. interest game. Look, I could see it being in U.S. interest to do that, to blow up Nord Stream 2. I just think Biden was too weak. Who benefits? And it leads me to think either the Ukrainians blew it up or Ukraine's allies. I don't think Biden did because Biden was so.
There was a cabinet official of Joe Biden's who said we were going to blow up Nord Stream 2. Biden himself said it will never happen, and threatened to blow it up, and then it blew up. But we're still denying to this day that we blew it up. Nord Stream 2 was a oil pipeline from Germany through Russia, and it made absolutely no sense for Russia to blow it up, but they kept saying Russia blew up their own pipeline. Huge revenue source. Made no sense.
Week, I don't think he would give the order. I find that implausible.
But you're in favor of it.
Look, I was in favor of stopping it. I think blowing it up was a good thing. So I'm supportive of that. But I don't think America did that. I don't think Biden gave that order.
But in
I
general,
can see Trump giving that order, but he wasn't in office.
Yeah, and you think that the largest act of industrial sabotage in history helped our allies in Western Europe or other fellow NATO members?
Look, I got to say, I don't understand. For some reason, you are really invested in defending Russia, and I don't get that. I'm not attacking you with that. I'm genuinely.
It was the largest act of industrial sabotage in the history of this country. And he gets mad and then starts pointing at Tucker. You're the one who's just said you were for it. Why are you getting mad at me?
Like, I don't get why you're so passionate about defending Russia.
Actually, I was defending Western Europe, the home of my ancestors, and that, tripling their energy costs and destroying their industrial base. Not like. You just accused me of being an anti-Semite, an isolationist, and a Russia lackey. I've not called you a neocon once, which you are, but I haven't said
absurd.
that.
Yeah, those neocons that oppose the Iraq War.
Right.
But like that's
okay. But I haven't called you that because name
calling.
calling.
You just said which you are. You just called that.
Okay.
Called me that. You just did.
I guess what I'm saying is you're triggered because I use name calling. I get it. I was triggered when you called me names, and I'm triggered once again that you're calling me a Russia defender when in fact I'm defending Western Europe. And I don't think that you.
Do you think Putin's our enemy?
Well, he's literally our enemy. You are funding a war against him.
Do you think he is our? No, you're saying we're his enemy. Do you think Putin is our enemy?
I think it is a tragedy that your policies, specifically yours, helped drive Putin into the arms of China, forming a bloc that's larger than us.
So you won't answer that question.
I don't. He is literally our enemy right now. That is a tragedy for the United States.
No, you're saying, but you won't say he is our enemy. Look, like I watched.
He just said he is literally our enemy, but you won't say he's our enemy. And he's doing this weird thing every time a topic comes up. He tries to force not a yes or no, but a either or question on Tucker, which the interview is him. You're the one being interviewed.
I don't want to be enemies with Russia. It doesn't help us at all. It may help some people in the United States, but in general, I don't want to be.
I don't want to be at war with Russia. I don't think it is in our interest to be at war with Russia.
With China. That is a disaster.
But listen, no doubt, and I want Russia and China attention, so I agree with you there. But I think Putin is a KGB thug. I think he is a bad man. Now, I don't want to go to war with him over that. Okay. But I'm not naive. And like I watched your episode.
He's a bad man. Okay.
Look, I watched your episode where you went to the Russian grocery store. And I'm
was that disloyal, do you think?
It was just weird. It was like a promo video for Russia. And I don't understand. I'm not attacking you when I ask why. Because I'm genuinely like, I don't get
like when you called me and said, you weren't attacking me, you were just noticing.
No,
but may I ask you a question? So here, well, let me just answer yours by saying, the United States, the Biden administration, with your help, full support, began this war on Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine. And one of the things was they kicked Russia out of SWIFT, out of the international financial system. Yep. And my first response was, this is going to really hurt the US dollar, which it has. And I hope someday we can have a conversation about that. It's really, really hurt the one thing that we needed, which was to retain dollar supremacy. So I was interested in the economic condition.
By the way, that's a reasonable point and a serious conversation.
I'm aware. And but
I can agree with you. Like,
no, but I was accused of being, I think it's weird that you went to a Russian grocery store and said it was prosperous. No, my point is.
It looked like a commercial. It looked like a commercial. Isn't this wonderful?
No, it was an argument against the efficacy of sanctions. Sanctions against Russia, which you casually and enthusiastically imposed, scoring a little moral victory every time, had no material effect that helped the United States. Russia is backstopped by China, and I recommend that you go there and see it. It is way nicer than Washington, D.C. Way nicer. To me, that's a tragedy. I was horrified and angry at my leaders, including you. It's like, I want to live in a country that's nice, with low food costs and no homeless people. I don't understand why that's too much to ask.
So do
Instead, I get worse with Iran. No, I just want lower food costs. How's that?
So, look, it's a weird...
I think he just spoke for over half this country when he said that. Because that's all most people want. We don't want war. We want the money that we would be spending on war spent on Americans here, or either given back to Americans here. It's really simple. Really simple. And he's mocking it.
Argument that you do often, which is, listen, things are crappy in America. Liberals have done bad things to America, so we shouldn't worry about any enemies around the world.
Republican senators, they don't care about us. They're focused on other countries.
You wrote that
and our country is dying, and you don't care because you're focused on Iran or Putin.
So you believe that I don't care about America. I guess you believe Donald Trump doesn't either, like nobody cares?
I believe that your focus is way too on other countries. It's way too focused outward. The money that you send abroad could be used here and should be.
What money that I send abroad, by the way, I emphatically agree with
Ukraine? You don't even know.
I emphatically agree with Donald Trump's, for example, dramatically slashing USAID. I think the only reason we should be deploying that is to benefit U.S. interest, national security interest, and keep Americans safe. And so,
how much did you vote to send to Ukraine?
Look, you were in about $80 billion.
$80 billion.
So $3 billion a year to Israel, $80 billion to Ukraine, but he's not the guy. He's not the one you want to hold responsible. No accountability at all. About $80 billion. 80 billion.
Yeah. So you're in. You love just giving these broad characterizations that are not accurate. I'm genuinely puzzled. Look, I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I don't think they're our friend. I think Putin.
I agree.
I think Putin is a murderer. I think he's a liar, and I think he does not wish well on America.
Okay.
This is the moral arguments that Tucker was talking about earlier. Just say what's wrong with the other people instead of justifying your actions against the other people. And saying somebody's a thug and they're evil and they're KGB, and then the other person wants to kill us and they chant death to America. Okay, those are all bad things. That's not a justification for going to war. That's a moral argument or making me feel some kind of way about that person so that I agree with you that we can go to war, but you won't tell me why.
And there's a difference between saying that, just like Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire and Putin was in the KGB. Look, my father was imprisoned and tortured in Cuba.
There he goes. My father was in. What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? He's really good at weaving into stories that you will be sympathetic to because, well, your father was in a prison camp. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's the first thing people will say or think. And this is how he gets you to agree with him.
Communist. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad. My aunt was imprisoned and tortured by Castro. I hate communists. I think communism is evil. And so I think there is a value to, there is nobody who stands up to communist China more in the Senate than I do, because I think they're evil. Do I want to go to war with China? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But I think we have all sorts of tools to stand up to our enemies. And I think China is engaged in a 1,000-year war against the United States. Okay. They're trying to defeat us.
We're so all over the map. We're your family in prison in Cuba and China and all that stuff. I agree with you. I'm totally opposed to communism. Always have been. I don't think that Putin loves us. I'm distressed by the moral condition of most leaders around the world. Most of them, they all kill people. I'm against that. I'm just saying, I wish the focus here was more on the United States. Can I say something?
I actually don't agree with that statement. They all kill people. There's a moral relativism. So I don't think Donald Trump is a murderer. He doesn't kill people. We don't have concentration
camps. Donald Trump a murderer.
You just said world leaders all kill people. And
see what he does? He tries to force this or this. These are the only two options here. This is what he's done this entire interview, and he looks horrible. This interview was so depressing because I really liked the guy. I was like, I can't believe this is how he thinks. He seems so much more intelligent than this. He hasn't even thought through his positions, and he's been running on them. He's been in office for, I don't know how many terms, but I think he said 12 years. I think he said 2012. You've been in office that long, you don't know the makeup of Iran, but you want to overthrow the government of Iran? Like, dude, what have you looked into this whole time? Yeah, he's my senator. I voted for him. I didn't know he was this empty.
There's a moral relativism.
I'm hardly a moral relativist.
But you are. That statement was the essence
I'm an anti-Semite, an isolationist, a moral relativist. Okay. No, I'm not.
Did you just say world leaders all kill people?
I'm saying I'm against killing people in general. And hyperventilating about how Putin was in the KGB or whatever. I just want to serve American interests, and pushing into China is not in our interest at all. And you helped do it, and you haven't apologized. And
and by the way, you're the cheerleader. I helped drive him into China. It's a complete lie.
You funded the war against him.
No, I authored the legislation that shut down Nord Stream 2 that prevented the war. And if Trump had still been in the White House, we would have had the war. And look, the comment you made, the reason things like moral relativism are so dangerous, everyone kills people. No, there is a difference. The United States, we don't have concentration camps. We don't torture and murder people. You look at China, where they've got.
This is all liberal tactics to get people to feel some kind of way. Concentration camps. The language is very specific or intentional. He's too smart to do that, to be doing this on accident, because he keeps going back to that. Do you agree with Putin or not? Is China our enemy? Do you think they're really trying to assassinate the president? Like, What are you doing? Why are you asking me this stuff? You're the senator. You're supposed to be telling me this information. You're asking me.
Got 1 million prisoners in concentration camps. You look at Putin, where he's got prisoners in Siberia. He tortures and murders his political opponents. Donald Trump doesn't do that. America doesn't do that. And by the way,
What are you
most
even talking
other countries
about?
don't do that.
I see the game. It's like, I'm
No, you're the one
distressed.
playing a game.
I'm distressed.
No, I'm responding with facts. You don't like the facts.
I don't even know what facts you're talking about. I'm not saying that Trump puts people in concentration camps. I campaign for Trump. I love Trump.
So did I.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with Trump. I'm merely saying,
When you said every world leader kills people, it puts
just
them
want
all
more
in the
emphasis on what's happening inside the country. That's it.
Is there a
That's
moral
it.
difference between America and our enemies? Is there a
Are you
moral difference between
joking? Of
America?
course.
And what is it? Articulate it. It's
American.
valuable to say why. Why are we a better country founded on better values than China?
I'll tell
What's
you.
the
I'll
difference?
tell you why.
And I know
because the whole purpose of America is to protect the God-given rights that each person possesses by virtue of being created by God.
Amen.
By being human.
That's it.
That's the point of our founding documents, and no other country articulates that in the way that we do. And that's what I love about America. My family's been here a long time. I'm never leaving. So I really love the country, despite going to a Russian grocery store, despite asking you questions about AIPAC. I love America is the truth, and I love Trump. So, but I just want more emphasis on America. That's it.
That's it. Hold on 1 second. I just wanted to play this one more time because this is what we're fighting for. It hasn't changed. The exact same goal has been stated since 1992, September of 1992. And this is, I don't understand this. At some point, we got to get hard evidence and not just one guy saying it and his government saying it and his spies who spy on us also saying it.
I think the United States should be very clear in forming an international coalition with Israel,
Very
of course. We have to make sure that these single-man regimes do not acquire weapons of mass destruction.
The most dangerous of these regimes is Iran. I believe that only the United States can lead this vital international effort to stop the nuclearization of terrorist states. But the deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. Time is running out.
By next spring, at most, by next summer, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. Iran could produce the nuclear detonator maybe under a year, maybe only a few months.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than.
And I don't know. How many times do we have to listen to the exact same presentation? If you did that at work, you'd get fired. You wouldn't get paid billions of dollars to give the exact same presentation at work. It's wild to me. I'm not an isolationist. I just want my government to be able to articulate without using emotion why they want to do what they want to do. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a responsibility that I have to the homeless people all over Houston, Chicago, LA, DC, New York, Jersey, everywhere where there's homeless people. I believe I have a responsibility to think about the problems here first. That's what I believe America first means. Apparently, Ted Cruz believes America first means Israel because we were commanded in the Bible to support Israel. I have a problem with that because all the Judeo-Christian values that this country is about is in our Constitution, not in somebody else's, not in another country's makeup. I'm O. Tatum Speaks. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, share. O Speaks is the other thing they call me. Paul Thomas, appreciates you and your engagement. John, appreciate you, sir, as always. Mel Dub, thank you as always. Miss Phoenix Rising, presidential campaign donors first. Yeah, frustrating watching him say things that are un-American was wild. Miss Genesis, thank you so much. I think I already said Miss Phoenix Rising. Pretty sure I just did. G Will, thank you, sir. Appreciate you for stopping in. Was Lester was in here. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Miss Akimi. Thank you, young lady. Appreciate you as always. Uncle L, as always. Thank you, sir, as well as being a stream sponsor. Make sure I'm not ignoring anybody. I have not done a good job of thanking you guys. Mel Dub, thank you so much. Stream sponsor as well. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I believe that is everyone. Keep going. Yep, that is everyone. I appreciate you all. Listen to these politicians. Ignore the talking points. Ignore the emotional appeals, because that's what they're doing. And it's really easy to get caught up in that stuff. Oh my God, they hate America. Okay. What does that have to do with why you're attacking? What did they do that would justify you displacing all of their population? Because just because you're removing their government, you don't know who's going to come in. You don't know the vacuum. You don't know what's going to happen there. So you are essentially saying, I'm going to take out the father, the mother, and any adults in the house. I'm just going to leave the kids there. Okay, what happens then? Have you thought about that? How many kids are in that house? What's the makeup of the people in that house? You should know these things. And Ted Cruz didn't even know. No idea. It could have been fully ethnic, or it could have been a fully Christian country, and he could be talking about getting rid of their government and displacing 92 million Christians. I'm not saying that's the case, but it could have been, because he didn't know. Yet he's over here talking about, well, we need to defend Israel. He has no idea. It's wild to watch. And then they just do this. You may be the reason why they hate us. You really do. And I agree. It's disappointing watching him speak in long form. And he has a podcast, but in his podcast, he's able to control. Like, he had no control over Tucker. Tucker just kept going right back to, okay, so if they're trying to assassinate the president, why aren't we at war? Well, he starts talking about John Bolton and Hook and Mike Pompeo. No. Let's go back to Trump, the one you said they were trying to assassinate. He couldn't do it. He didn't want to. He was using that as a segue into lying about it. So it wasn't about Trump. It was about Bolton. Everybody hates Bolton. Trump hated Bolton. He only brought him in for an opposite perspective. The dude's a warmonger. Pretty much every other country hates that guy. I would not be surprised if they were trying. I'm not saying I'm okay with them trying to assassinate him, but it's a little bit better context to know, oh, you're talking about, yeah, of course. Appreciate everyone again. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mel Dub. Thank you, Uncle L, for sponsoring. Appreciate you guys so much. And that's all I got for today.